Zimbabwe's military leaders have warned against people taking retribution against old adversaries after Robert Mugabe resigned as the country's president. The warning came amid wild scenes of jubilation in the African country following Mugabe's resignation after 37 years in power. Acts of vengeful retribution or trying to settle scores will be dealt with severely, Gen. Constantino Chiwenga said. There are scenes of jubilation across Zimbabwe's capital Harare. Mugabe, who has been in power since independence in 1980, said his resignation was voluntary. My decision to resign is voluntary on my part and arises from my concern for the welfare of the people of Zimbabwe and my desire for a smooth, non-violent transfer of power, Mugabe said in his letter, which was read out in Parliament, sparking cheers and dancing. British Foreign Secretary has signalled his support for Zimbabwe to rejoin the Commonwealth but said free and fair elections should be held at a future date. The immediate priority is to ensure that Zimbabwe has a legitimate government, appointed through free and fair elections in accordance with the Constitution, Johnson said in a statement. He said he would not pretend to regret Mugabe's downfall, and the end of his 37-year rule appeared to be a moment of hope for Zimbabwe. In pictures, joyous scenes as Mugabe quits. Cars began honking horns and people cheered in the streets, as the news spread like wildfire across the capital, Harare. Activists, who have never known a life without Mugabe ruling, broke down in tears of joy. We are tired of this man, we are so glad he's gone, we don't want him anymore, and yes, today is a victory, it's victory in our hearts, it's victory for our children, one woman told the BBC as she sobbed. Mugabe, who had been the world's oldest head of state at 93, said that proper procedures should be followed to install new leadership. Mugabe's resignation brought an end to the impeachment proceedings brought by the ruling ZANU-PF party after its Central Committee voted to oust the president as party leader and select recently fired Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa as his replacement, a move that eventually could lead to Mnangagwa becoming head of state. Currently in exile, Mnangagwa served for decades as Mugabe's enforcer, with a reputation for being astute and ruthless, more feared than popular. Before the resignation, crowds rallied outside Parliament, dancing and singing. Some people placed photos of Mugabe in the street so that cars would run over them. Opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai of the MDC party said the culture of the ruling party must end and everyone must put their heads together and work toward free and fair elections. Mnangagwa added to immense pressure on Mugabe to quit after nearly 4 decades in power, during which he evolved from a champion of the fight against white minority rule into a figure blamed for a collapsing economy, government dysfunction and human rights violations. The people of Zimbabwe have spoken with one voice, and it is my appeal to President Mugabe that he should take heed of this clarion call and resign forthwith so that the country can move forward and preserve his legacy, Mnangagwa said in his statement, after more than a week of silence. Mnangagwa, who fled the country and has not appeared in public during the past week's political turmoil, said Mugabe had invited him to return to Zimbabwe for a discussion on recent events.